Oh, there you are, YouTube. Do. Subscribe if you're interested, but also no pressure. Hey, we're going to do an unboxing today. Right here, got this box with movies inside of it. I took advantage of the KINO LORBER Memorial Day sale where they had basically any sort of war movie, military movie, anything along those lines for sale at, gosh, what was it? It might have been 50% off. I think it was 50% off. It's been a few days now, so I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was 50% off. So let's see what I picked up, shall we? Let's break in to this box and see what we got. All right. Now, well, I guess maybe I'll talk about it when the movie comes up. Movies come up. Okay, here we go. This is what I'm going to start with. This is actually a trilogy, so maybe that gave some things away. But this is something I've been interested in. Is this right? This looks a little weird. Okay, it is right, but that is strange. Okay, and that is the Missing in Action trilogy. So Chuck Norris, to me, let me tell you about Chuck Norris and me. When I think of Chuck Norris, I think of Sidekicks. I think of Walker, Texas Ranger. I think of Dodgeball. Obviously, like, he's been a part of the culture way beyond all of that, but I haven't really seen any of his movies, so I don't know even why he's famous, honestly. And I think maybe this is a good place to start. Actually, I want to ask you, what are the movies that he is most known for? Is it these? I guess I also know the Delta Force is a big one. Maybe that's his biggest movie. But what are his biggest movies? What made him famous? And, well, I guess maybe him fighting Bruce Lee made him famous, perhaps. But I don't know if that necessarily made him famous. It just, like, maybe got his name out there. But, like, what are his movies? His movies where it's like, hey, Chuck Norris is like an icon of action. I want to know, because to me, he just wasn't that in the forefront. Like, I just don't know him very well, even though I feel like I know him well. Isn't that weird? Like with Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis and just others, right? Like, I've seen their movies. I know why they are famous. I've seen the movies that made them famous. That's not the case with this guy. I've only seen this stuff after he was famous. So, I wanted to figure out and find the stuff that makes him Chuck Norris. And I saw this trilogy here was for sale, so I wanted to pick it up. It's a Blu-ray. Why I paused a little bit back there was just because this middle one is like upside down. Look at that. So I was like, wait a second, what happened there? So yeah, we have Missing in Action 2 at the beginning, and then which is upside down. Wait, so that means that one is a prequel. So it's kind of like an Indiana Jones situation where you have the movie and then the sequel is actually the prequel, you know, Temple of Doom, how it takes place beforehand. And then we have Braddock, which I'm thinking is his name, Missing in Action 3. But yeah, I want to know what else should I get beyond the Missing in Action trilogy. And I guess Delta Force, because I know Delta Force. But isn't there one where he's like kind of like a bionic man or like a Terminator or something, like science fiction developed person that he's pretty famous for? Maybe so. I don't know. I know there's more stuff out there that I need to check out, but very excited to finally dig into the career that made him who he is. Okay, here, actually on the back here, it lists Code of Silence as one of his movies, as well as A Force of One. So would you say those would be other films to get a head start on? I guess I should look at like Chuck Norris rankings, because I'm curious. Again, to me, he's Sidekicks. He's Walker, Texas Ranger. He's, an internet meme. He's all of these things. And I've known about him since I was a little kid. And most of these movies that made him famous were from the 80s, which is also weird because I was alive during a lot of that time, but I just don't know his movies. It's like they weren't playing on the channels I was watching, I guess, and my parents weren't watching them. So anyway, I'm excited about these. If you know about these movies, if you like them, let me know what you think about them. How would you rank the three of these? I'd love to know. And what are some other Chuck Norris movie recommendations? Because I'd like to dig deeper into his filmography. All right, next comes a movie that I have some information on. Very excited about this one here. Ooh, is there a scratch? No scratches. I think we're good. Okay, so KINO LORBER. So those were Blu-rays. I don't know if I mentioned that. These were just Blu-rays, not 4Ks. But here I do have some 4Ks, and or a 4K, and that is The Train, starring Burt Lancaster. So why did I pick this up? I am currently listening to a podcast called 50 Miles Per Hour, which is a podcast, an oral history of the making of the movie Speed. Not just the making of it. It is the making of it. I mean, and it is a deep dive. It's hosted by Chris Tapley, one of my favorite film writers. I've been following him since, I think, '06 or '07. I can't remember. Well, it was probably '07-ish, '06, '07, somewhere in there. Started reading his work. Been following him ever since. And then he created this podcast where he is, doing an oral history of Speed. Basically, all the people who are involved in the making of Speed are being interviewed, including Keanu and Sandra, but also all of the other passengers on the bus, and producers that worked on it. Jan de Bont, who will come into play here in a moment. Other directors talking about the film and why they love it and why they think the director, Jan de Bont, is amazing. And he gets down to the catering staff that catered the movie, everything. So it's like the development of the movie, the making of the movie, the release of the movie, the critical reception of the movie, how it exists, I guess, within the culture of the 90s in a variety of different ways. The podcast isn't over yet. I think there are maybe 1 or 2 more episodes left. And it took me a while to catch up on it because I've been binging and I was behind on it. But anyway, it's a great podcast. Again, it's called 50 Miles Per Hour, hosted by Chris Tapley. And anyway, I keep mentioning that because now I'm a little blurry because I've been binging, trying to catch up. So there's like 2 things I'm going to mention that are kind of true here, and I might be overlapping them. So I believe, if I remember this correctly, because I remember this movie getting brought up quite a bit in the podcast, The Train here. And I believe it's Jan de Bont's favorite movie, the director of Speed. It's either his favorite movie or I know it heavily influenced Speed. But I think it might also be his favorite movie. And I remember on the podcast, Chris Tapley had Guillermo del Toro on to talk about the film. And he was also bringing up The Train a lot and the similarities between Speed and The Train. But I'm pretty sure Jan de Bont maybe considered this his favorite movie. And if it's not his favorite movie, it's one that influenced Speed. I wish I could remember that clearly right now, but anyway, I kept hearing about this as a major influence, and I was like, you know what, I gotta see it. There's another one out there called, I think it was called like Juggernaut or something like that, Juggernaut of the Sea, or just the Juggernaut, I can't remember. That's also a major influence, and I gotta check that one out also. But anyway, Jan de Bont, what do we know him from? We know him from Speed, obviously. We also know him from Twister, right? Just that 1-2 punch. Speed was his very first movie. 1-2 punch. And then after that he did Speed 2, which I saw in theaters, I remember. And yeah, that was funny. That one's not one of his greatest. The Haunting, I think a lot of people don't like it, but I do. My wife and I, we watch it quite a bit. And then what else did he do? One of the Lara Croft movies. And then, gosh, didn't he do one more? I think he did another one, but it's not coming to mind right now. But anyway, great action director, especially when you listen to the oral history of Speed and the stuff he was just willing to do. And he was like 50 years old when he did this, so he was doing like wild stuff because he was a cinematographer before, and you know, worked in Europe where he's from, and he was like, what is he, a Dane, I think, and he was like, you know, I think he had his head. He was making a movie called Roar, and he had his head like bitten by a lion. Like, if you just dropped an enamel pin off my hat. If you look at Jan's head, like he's got like scars from a lion bite in it. Anyway, I keep talking about Jan, but anyway, I guess that makes sense though, because his love for this movie, or at least the influence he gained from this movie, and then carrying it over to Speed, which I think is a great film, and I have, you know, back here, made me want to watch this. So yeah, and I really don't know much about it, and I do love the cover right here, so you know, that was a draw. But I feel like I gotta go grab Speed really quick. I just want to put these movies next to one another, see what that looks like. 4K and 4K right there. Look at that. Nice. Look at that. That's great. Also, look at the font. Look at the font right there where it says Speed. See that? Now look at this. Do you see the similarity? Do you see the similarity? The yellow where it says Blu-ray. Look at the yellow where it says the train. Anyway, yeah, I really wanted to check that out. Have you seen the train? I'm really excited to check this one out. Supposedly it's great master work in terms of action, just like Speed, one of the greatest action movies of maybe not even the 90s, of all time. And yeah, I'm really excited to pick that one up, especially because of this podcast I'm listening to, and I can't recommend it enough. Again, it's called 50 Miles Per Hour. Chris Tapley, my favorite film writer. But anyway, these were the films I picked up, Missing in Action, and if you know more about Chuck Norris, let me know, because I want to know what other films I need to be picking up by this guy. And then same thing with the train. If you've seen the train, what do you know about it? I'd love to know. Have you ever double featured it with Speed? Has that ever happened? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Just let me know about the films in the comments below. I'd love to know. And perhaps we'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.